I'm back, YouTube. It's Randy Orton Fan 2011 here to bring you round 28 of 36 in Season 3 of the PORWC Pepsi Cup Series. We're back here at New Orleans Motor Speedway for the Verizon Wireless 400. So after what we saw during the nationwide race, there was a lot of action during when pit stops came into play, and that really determined the outcome of that race during the nationwide series. So we might see another one of that like this again here in the Cup Series, but of course the car's a little different. Cars are going to go a little faster, and we'll see how everything transpires as we first take a look at the starting lineup. That was your starting lineup. Danny Wells will be starting on the pole for the first time this season, and now he is eligible for the Sprint Unlimited in Season 4. Starting next to him is Sean Galligan, who's also could play a dark horse factor in this one. There's Joseph Lombard starting third, Trent Dunham, the second of the Chasers, starting fourth. He would love to rebound after getting, spun out by Stephen Whitman late in the race, and he would love to get get some payback here. Ryan Richards and Seth Cole, two chasers. Seth Cole looking to build on that momentum from the previous race where he did pretty well, as he will start in the 6th position. There's Emilio Navarrete. He'll be looking to build off another top 10, his second top 10 finish of the season that happened at Chicagoland, and we'll be looking forward to another top 10 finish. And there's Jake Cole, who has had a pretty disappointing season despite the win at Phoenix, but we'll see if Jake Cole can play a factor in this one. And then there's Barney Ward, another one of the playoff drivers who didn't really do well in Chicagoland. He'll be looking to rebound here at New Orleans. And then there's Lyndon Wright, and I believe Lyndon Wright is 6th in the points. He'll be looking to gain some momentum on Seth Cole, who is currently the points leader. So we're just about ready to fire up these engines. Let's get it started under the lights here in New Orleans. Here we go. Pace car is going to make the left turn to pit road. Here we go. Green flag is out here in New Orleans. 28 laps. Going to be a good one. And we're going to see quite a lot of action right here from the start. And looks like some cars didn't get all that going right from the start. Some cars didn't get going right from the start, and that's going to cost them a lot of time. That's going to really spread out the field here. Going to really spread out this field as we go through this race, as Danny Wells will be the leader at this point. Of course, Danny Wells wants to lead that first lap so that he gets an extra bonus point. Danny Wells is going to need every bonus point, every point he can get in this race, as Danny Wells leads the first lap, and that will be a big bonus point for the 17 machine. There is Stephen Whitman. He is all the way in the back, and Stephen Whitman, he might have done well, and he did pretty well in, and Stephen Whitman already doing some unorthodox things right from the back of the pack. He's trying to make some passes here. Stephen Whitman actually had a great race at Chicagoland, but then he crashed during final practice in this during the New Orleans race weekend. So now he's going to have to start at the back of the pack, and Stephen Whitman trying to build off the momentum that he had on Alpha Chicagoland. Now, the interesting factor in this one is going to be pit stops. And again, pit stops, like we saw in the nationwide race, are going to play a major factor, are going to play a major role in this race. We're going to see how far these guys can go on the first green flag run before they start coming in for pit stops. We saw during the nationwide race that the cars were able to make it 10, 11 laps on fuel, but those who were able to make it 11 laps were able to go all the way to the end, able to save up enough fuel, and John Dillon actually stole the win here at New Orleans during the nationwide race. So again, with pit stops playing a major factor, we could see another non-chaser steal a win here in this event. We could see another non-chaser steal a win and come away with the second win for non-chasers during playoff races. But I'll tell you, these playoff drivers, they are hungry. These playoff drivers are hungry for a victory. And Sean Galligan trying not to waste any time, not wasting any time, looking for the lead, looking to the inside, but Danny Wells able to hold it on the outside. You get a lot more. It's a lot more room on that outside line. You get a lot more speed on the outside than you do on the inside. And again, we're seeing higher speeds. We're seeing higher speeds here in the Cup Series because of the engine build in this Cup Series. We're seeing a lot higher. We're seeing higher speeds in this Cup Series. We're seeing them probably hit around 210 as they get to at the end of the straightaways, and they had to use the brakes to get around 190. We didn't see much braking during the nationwide race. You're able to probably maintain around somewhere around 195 to in between 195 and 200 something. Again, now comes the again, we'll have to remember that pit stops will play a factor in this race. We'll have to see how many laps these cars can go before making a pit stop. Now, I do want to mention this. If these cars start coming in with around lap 8 or 9, then they might have to make 3 pit stops. But if these cars can go about 10 laps, like we saw during the nationwide race, if these cars can go about 10 laps on pit before making their pit stops, then they might be able to make just 2 pit stops. And of course, if they can't go more than 10 laps, then that might be a problem, because they will have to make 3 pit stops, and making the 3rd pit stop might be costly at the end of this race. Again, not much going on around the back or the front, really. See a lot of cars, and here comes the first group, and that's Trent Dunham and Emilio Navarrete. This is the first group that's come. These are the first few guys that are coming in. It doesn't look like anybody else is coming in either. So it looks like only 2 guys, Trent Dunham and Emilio Navarrete, are coming in, and they're pitting on lap 7. So if they continue to do that, they were going to have to make at least 3 pit stops, maybe 4, if that might be the case. And again, with those 2 off sequence in pit stops, this is going to be really big for those guys. And here come the second group. They've made it on 8 laps. They came in at lap 8. Sean Galligan, I believe. Who else is that? Ryan Richards, Seth Cole, Jake Cole, Lyndon Wright, Dylan Young, Callum Wells, Cody Lamas. There's a bunch of more cars coming in on lap 8. So we can finish around lap 9. Danny Wells still out in front, I believe. I believe he hasn't made his pit stop yet. There's a second group of pit stops. There's a second group of cars that are coming in here. Danny Wells and Joseph Lombard still haven't come into pit road yet, and this might play out in their factor, as they are the later. There were some of the latter guys to come in on pit road for Danny Wells and Joseph Lombard. This might play into their advantage if possible. Here comes that second group right there, as I mentioned. And then that second group, they got to make sure they play it smart here. Looks like that second group will be able to come out, and oh shit, something happened right around here. Oh, Charles Jackson, heavy damage to the 9 machine. Wow, that is unbelievable, and that really slows up. That will really slow up this the guys that come in this 3rd round of pit stops. That's going to slow down Joseph Lombard and Danny Wells. So unfortunate things happening to Charles Jackson. They're going to slow down Joseph Lombard and Danny Wells, who are currently leading this race. Trying to figure out who the new leader is, as we were just about done with pit stops. Everybody coming in. Everybody coming in. Close call right there with Danny Wells, Joseph Lombard. Close call right there, but Joseph Lombard going to come out in front of Danny Wells there. Again, we're still trying to figure out who the leader is, as after we've already completed these pit stops. Still trying to find the leader. Still trying to figure out who the leader is after all of these pit stops, because boy, and there's Charles Jackson. He's going to come in for a second stop. And I'll tell you, Charles Jackson has not had a good start to this playoffs. It's a very tough start for Charles Jackson. It looks like Trent Dunham is the new leader. So Trent Dunham is the leader after pit stops. Trent Dunham, a great stop. Sean Galligan coming out second. Emilio Navarrete third. Joseph Lombard fourth. And Danny Wells rounding out the top five. So for Trent Dunham coming in early, that might help him out right now. But they still have to make another these guys will still have to make another pit stop. I believe Trent Dunham and Emilio Navarrete, those two came in at lap 7. So if they end up keeping sequence there, they might have to come in 2 more times, as opposed to Joseph Lombard, Danny Wells. They came in at lap 9. So we'll see how the pit strategy comes out, how the pit strategy unfolds over the course of this race. And again, those pit stops really shake up the field here, and they really can play a major factor in this race. Again, we're not too far away from the second round of pit stops, and that will be coming in about 5 or 6 laps. But Trent Dunham, he's going to lead a couple laps here, and he will get a big bonus point for leading some laps. If he can lead at the halfway point here, then that will be another bonus point for Trent Dunham, and he might need that extra bonus point in case something goes wrong, because Trent Dunham, he's currently 11th in the playoff standings. He's going to need every point he can get if he wants to be able to come away with the championship. Battle here for third position between Emilio Navarrete, Joseph Lombard. Emilio Navarrete trying to defend that third position. Emilio Navarrete actually hasn't not had the best season you can think for in the Pepsi Cup Series, but for Emilio Navarrete, he's finally coming up with those top 10 finishes late in this season. He may be well out of the race in the championship, but I'll tell you, Emilio Navarrete is here to make a statement. That's for sure. Again, pit strategy is going to play a factor in this. You got to take a look. We got to pay attention to where these guys will start coming in to pit road. There's Trent Dunham. He leads at the halfway point, so another bonus point for Trent Dunham as he leads at the halfway point. The field is now pretty much spread out now at this point. We got a couple cars probably making some chances for a pass here, probably towards the back. There's James McLeod there trying to make the pass on Liam Ervig for a 31st position. McLeod trying to come up with a speed advantage off the backstretch, and he will make the pass on Liam Ervig. And here come the next few cars. James Qualls is coming in to pit road. I believe there could be more. There's Trent Dunham and Emilio Navarrete. So these guys are coming in. So they're coming in now at lap 16. So it looks like we probably could go about 8-9 laps on fuel here. Maybe about 8 or 9 laps. I know that's not really a very realistic number, but of course I wanted to make my series a little more interesting here as during the playoffs. And here comes Ryan Richards. Here comes Seth Cole. Ryan Richards, Seth Cole, Lennon right now coming in, trying to make earlier pit stops than the rest of the field here. James Qualls coming out, and we'll see. There come more cars coming into the picture as Trent Dunham beats out Emilio Navarrete, and we might have some more takers here if possible. Trying to figure out who they will be. It looks like those two guys are coming off of pit road actually. And there's Red Bell, Liam Ervig's coming in, Sean Henley is in, Randy Carpenter is in, and now the field is pretty much, now it looks like they're all spread out now. Now it looks like the rest of the field is now spread out as they were starting to make more pit stops. Joseph Lombard is now credited as the leader, but it looks like Joseph Lombard is now coming in to make his stop, as now Danny Wells, the pole sitter, is now the leader, but he's going to have to come in about a couple of laps. He's going to have to come in maybe this lap or maybe 2 laps from now. And Danny Wells actually trying to stay out, trying to get every lap he can get, trying to lead as many laps as he can. And here comes Danny Wells. He's going to come into pit road now. Barney Ward also coming in, Eric Burton and Ryan Cooper, James Silverfox. This might be the last group of guys that are coming into pit road. Might be the last group of guys coming into pit road, so again, the pit strategy is going to come in and play a factor here. We might be able to make 8 or 9 laps on a full tank, about 8 or 9 laps. So for Danny Wells, he's been pitting. He pitted on lap 9. Then he pitted on lap 18. So Danny Wells, if he can stretch this out, maybe about a couple laps or so, if he can come away with the lead, and if he sees everybody else coming in, then that could play out to Danny Wells' favor and give him the victory. But we still have to figure out who will still be the leader after this. Again, you got to figure out who's going to make it out first. Danny Wells going to be the first out of that group. Tony Blazer coming out second. Barney Ward coming out third. Eric Burton out fourth. And Ryan Cooper coming out fifth of that group. And now here we go back. Now we're gonna have some confusion here in trying to determine the new leader. Trying to still determine the new leader at this point. And we're still having a tough time trying to determine the leader here. We're waiting on the scoreboard. To give us the new leader. And it is indeed Trent Dunham who comes off the pit road first. So Trent Dunham playing into some strategy here, but I believe Trent Dunham and Emilio Navarrete, those two were the first guys that were part of that first group that came in on the first and second round of pit stops. So Trent Dunham looking for his first win looking for his first win since season 1, looking for his first win in 52 races. It's been 52 races since Trent Dunham has been 51 races actually. 51 races since Trent Dunham has been into victory lane in the Pepsi Cup Series. That's probably tied for the longest. That might be tied for the longest active winless streak. The second longest winless streak that we have seen in this series. Probably the longest was Dylan Young, or maybe actually the longest is, the longest was Dylan Young, with I believe he went 52 races without a victory. Trent Dunham trying to get his first win in 51 races. But now the question comes: will these guys be able to make it on fuel? These guys are we're gonna have to watch everybody else coming in now, because I believe that we still might have one more round of pit stops. We still might have one more round of pit stops to come. So for Trent Dunham and Emilio Navarrete, this could play out to their factor. If with them stopping early, those two have come out on the front of the pack. And Joseph Lombard also been pretty lucky on pit strategy as well, as he came out third after that round of pit stops. Danny Wells has been out the longest, I believe. He pitted on lap 9 and then on lap 18. So Danny Wells also trying to play some strategy here. He might end up coming in with 2 to go, but then it's probably playing out well in Danny Wells' favor. But again, we're going to be watching when Trent Dunham and Emilio Navarrete could be coming in. Those two have been coming in together, I believe, and I believe they're coming in together again, as we are back to the third round of pit stops here. Trent Dunham and Emilio Navarrete both of them are coming in, and I don't think we have any other takers. Well, there comes James Qualls. He's the third taker. I believe he pitted with Trent Dunham and Emilio Navarrete. So now Joseph Lombard is your leader. He gets a bonus point for leading a lap. So now, with all these guys making pit stops, the guy that I'm really most concerned about is Danny Wells, because he pitted on laps 9 and 18. If he can try and stretch this out, Danny Wells, he might be able to make it if he can, but that's going to be a big long shot, because these guys at most would probably can only go 9 laps, so Danny Wells might have to come in one more time. Here comes Sean Galligan making his stop. Trent Dunham coming out in front of Emilio Navarrete. There's James Qualls there. See who else is going to take on, who's going to make on takers on pit road. Wolfgang Mason, Sam Young going to come in for pit stop. Sean Henley going to come in. Callum Wales, Dylan Pote, the defending champ. Jacob Lawler coming in. Cody Lamas, Lyndon Wright, Seth Cole. They're all coming in as well. So again, we're going to be watching for these cars to see if these cars, when these cars will be making pit stops. Michael Norman, Dylan Young, those two are running in the top 10 at the time. They're coming in, and it looks like Danny Wells is already coming in. So Danny Wells stopping a little earlier, trying to make sure that he can make it on fuel. He's trying to get out a little earlier than others so that he doesn't have to go that far, trying to stretch out the fuel that far. But as we have as we were cycling through pit stops, Barney Ward is now the leader, but he's going to have to come in sooner or later, and it looks like here he comes. So Barney Ward will get a lap lead bonus point. Ryan Cooper also coming in for service. And here comes Trent Dunham trying to make a pass on Sean Galligan. I do not know if this is for the lead, though. 2 laps to go. 2 laps to go now, as we have we're just about almost done with this race. Still side by side there. We're still trying to figure out who the leader is. I believe Barney Ward is still the leader at this point, but we're still trying to figure out who's going to come out first out of this one, because this is we've been having quite a lot of things going on pit road. We're still trying to figure out the leader. We're going to see who takes the white flag this time by, and I believe that might be the leader. Just trying to figure out who is going to take the white flag. We still haven't gotten a word on the leader of this race. Still haven't gotten word. The white flag will come out this time by. I'm thinking maybe it might be Danny Wells. I'm not quite 100% sure. Not 100% sure if Danny Wells might be considered the leader as they come to the white flag. There is the white flag. And Danny Wells is the leader. Danny Wells playing out pit strategy perfectly to his credit. Barney Ward coming out in second. Eric Burton actually came out third. Joseph Lombard fourth. Sean Galligan coming out fifth. Trent Dunham came out sixth. Emilio Navarrete seventh. Ryan Cooper coming out eighth. How about John Waycross in ninth, and James Silverfox coming out in 10th. So to all these guys' credit, Danny Wells is going to be the biggest winner out of this one. Playing pit strategy out perfect. Picture perfect. And there's the checkered flag. Danny Wells takes home the Verizon Wireless 400, his first victory of the season. And how about Danny Wells played out pit strategy perfectly. Danny Wells played pit strategy out picture perfect, and he comes away with the victory here. Starts on the pole, and he comes away with the victory. Got to hand it to Danny Wells right there. Barney Ward tried to hold off Danny Wells right there at the last moment coming off, but he's going to have to settle for second position. There's another Eric Burton coming away with third position. You don't see Eric Burton up towards the front much, but for Eric Burton, that's his first podium finish in quite a long while for Eric Burton. This will help him out a lot in the playoffs. Joseph Lombard ends up fourth, and Sean Galligan rounds out the top five. So chasers, so playoff chasers, playoff chase drivers sweeping the podium. Didn't see that during the nationwide race, and now we see the top three all chasers taking away the podium in this race. So a great race, and it really came down to that pit strategy, and Danny Wells played pit strategy to his favor, and he took advantage of pit strategy, coming in a little earlier than he wanted to. And for Danny Wells, it was just all a day's work in Danny Wells. So he takes home the win. Now we take a look at your official race results. Here's a look at your official race results. Congratulations to Danny Wells. He takes home the victory here at New Orleans. It's his first victory of the season. Boy, that's going to help out Danny Wells quite a lot in the points, and as well as Barney Ward and Eric Burton. Those guys sweep up the podium. So great days for the chasers. Trent Dunham coming out in 6th. Emilio Navarrete, his second straight top 10 finish. Give it to Emilio Navarrete. He's finally trying to make a statement here. And I believe they have four chasers in the top. We have four chasers in the top 10. Ryan Richards is the next best chaser in 11th. Then it's Michael Norman who finishes 13th. Seth Cole comes out at 15th. Dylan Young 16th. Lyndon Wright in 17th. And didn't see we saw. Well, that's probably about half the chasers right there in the top 20. So not a bad day for the chasers here. Pit strategy really played out into their factor, and they come away with solid finishes. 21st to 30th are Ty Naughton, Jacob Lawler, Zara Manood, Anthony McCurry, William Duncan, Dylan Pote, Callum Wells, Wolfgang Mason, Kyle Sosnowski, James Qualls. And I believe the 9 more cars finished the race on the lead lap. Sam Young, Richard Johnson, Sean Henley, Red Bell, James McLeod, Ricky Hawk, Austin Ogo, Stephen Whitman, Liam Ervig, Tony Blaze, Randy Carpenter finish a lap down. Charles Jackson is the one car that has DNF from the race. So again, pit strategy played into the hands of Danny Wells, and Danny Wells played the pit strategy hand perfectly as he comes away with the win here at New Orleans. And of course, that's going to be big momentum for Danny Wells heading into the latter stages of the playoffs. And we're done here in New Orleans. Next up is Dover, and yes, it's a rare short track on the schedule, but we'll be at Dover for some more racing in both the Nationwide and the Cup Series, so make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Alright guys, that's it. This is Randy Orton Fan 2011, signing off. Remember, subscribe to me and become a member of the gang. This race has been brought to you by Pepsi Next. Crisp, refreshing, amazing Pepsi Next. I'm out.